Lululemon Athletica is announcing a partnership with the National Football League and Fanatics Inc. The brands have launched a new clothing line for all 32 NFL teams. It's the first time Lululemon is offering its officially licensed products for the NFL. Here to talk more about it is Jessica Ramirez, co-founder and managing director of the Consumer Collective. Jessica, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you like this idea, but not everyone thinks it's a great idea. There are concerns that it may affect their core customers, women, and there's some worry with that. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I do like it. I think there's been a lot that we've seen in terms of collaborations when it comes to sports. Sports have been on an upswing. I think the NFL in itself is really working on rebranding itself. Last year, they hired a fashion editor, really working with their football players to kind of team up with content and fashion and bring in more interest into the game and really make it younger and spotlight their athletes. I think in terms of women, it's actually quite interesting because we did have a Swiftie effect last year, and I do expect that to continue into this year. Last year, the Chiefs owner actually stated that though it used to be 50-50, their fan base, women's actually grew. It was 57% and 43% was male. So I think there are more women interested in sports in general. I think in NFL, we see more of the spectator. Anecdotally, I do hear quite a lot of women talking much more about watching the game. And I think why we really do like this idea for Lulu, and I think for any other brand working within sports, is there's more of a community element. So along with that comes merchandise of who you are rooting for. And in terms of community event, there's watch parties either being hosted at home or at bars, and people really are looking for that connection in general. So I'm looking at it from a more of a macro level and why that is helpful to a brand. And I think with Lulu, it has been in a tough spot. The reason why though it's a very good idea that they're partnering with the NFL, I'm concerned that though if there is not enough newness, the sort of halo effect that they're creating across a brand would falter in that sense. So we also need them to really ramp up in terms of their product assortment.
And is that key then? What are the keys then for this to succeed, and what could be the faux pas that would make this a massive failure?
Honestly, I think they've been doing great with partnerships on the rewards program and lifestyle, and that has all been great. And in North America, that really has been the bulk of their business and where they've seen the slowdown. And that's really been the issue with the brand. And they have talked about newness not being enough. I did see them come a bit late into tennis, which that has been a sport that has been on the rise. Again, so that's why I'm quite happy to see them move towards the NFL as well. And I think if there isn't enough newness in their assortment that is truly going to captivate the consumer who is new and is coming into the brand, then it will not be that sticky. So usually with halo effects to work very well is you might have something that you might introduce a new consumer, or you might bring in that customer in the door, but you need to keep that customer in the door with your core product. So I think that's really where the test is going to be. Right now, the brand is really focused on outerwear. Q4 tends to be their biggest quarter. Again, outerwear was much more expensive. It can draw in the consumer, but I'm seeing a lot of competition out there when it comes to that as well. So, and as well, accessories, they've done quite well there, and that category continues to grow. But again, we need to make sure that everything else is also a reason to either keep the customer coming back or keeping them engaged.
And you mentioned tennis. Also, I know they partnered with Lewis Hamilton and also the NHL for about a year now. How have those worked for them so far?
Well, NHL is an interesting one if we compare it to the NFL, because NFL is much larger in terms of viewership and the engagement that they have. I feel like NHL was probably a test, right? Especially Fanatics is also included with that. With the F1 and Lewis Hamilton, that's been very interesting because we've seen a lot of luxury brands tap into that. And just last week, the races were going on in Mexico, and it's just luxury all aboard. LVMH is huge on it. And I think it's really tied to a very special experience and a special cohort and what it brings along. So a brand to tie into that. I think Lulu has done very well with that. And Lulu does tend to skew towards a higher end consumer. So I think that's great. In terms of tennis, the reason why I say that has been a bit slow is I haven't seen the apparel, and it's not only Lululemon, but many other sportswear brands that many of us viewing the space have thought there hasn't been enough, I would say either from the footwear or from the apparel side that really have betted on it. And I feel like Lulu was about a year late to really bet on that because it hasn't been, racket sports have been on the rise for more than a year. So again, we want them to be quite early and feel confident when they're betting on something, not to really be joining the train a bit too late.
Now, we're almost out of time, but should, instead of focusing on the States, should they be looking outside, places like China, or expanding? Excuse me, there's been talk of possibly footwear. Should they be focusing on those two things, do you think?
Yeah, so they have been focusing more on international in terms of China, and they have been doing very well. So that is a strong market for them. They're much more localized there. They focus on the experience. So I have seen some of that shift and a positive shift in general. And in terms of footwear, they have been growing that category. It hasn't fully taken off, but it's had some green shoots. They're still trying to get it right. But in terms of other areas of growth, it's been menswear that has continued to do really well. And accessories, as I mentioned, accessories has really bulked up, and that has been a key category for them. So there is room to grow. Again, it's just really the US that has become a bit stagnant.
Okay, Jessica, thank you as always for joining us.
Thank you.
Jessica Ramirez is co-founder and managing director of the Consumer Collective.